And actually, all I'm going to do is introduce Dr. A.J. Major, who is now a third-year resident in internal medicine and an entrepreneur, publisher. And I'll turn it over to you, A.J.
Thank you very much, Dr. Jones. So I have the pleasure today of introducing to this Arts and Humanities lecture series my dear friend, Dr. Phyllis Ying, who's coming to us from Seattle. So Phyllis graduated from the University of Washington, where she got a double major in neurobiology and ecology. After her time there, she worked kind of a story path. She worked at Noah Fisheries, AmeriCorps, and some research for the VA. We met then after all of that at Albany Medical College in upstate New York, where we were medical students together, and she is now a PEY-free family medicine resident physician at Kaiser Permanente of Washington in Seattle, where she came up with the idea for this book, and we're collaborating and producing this lecture we'll here today, which is entitled Caregiver as Chronicler, How Journaling Improves Patient Care. So, Dr. Yang.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for coming today. I'm very excited to be here. Can you all hear me okay? I'm going to try and, I'm wearing a cardigan today. If you would say that's what I'm not putting this microphone on, but hopefully it works out. So thanks. Denver's beautiful. I love it. We went to the Botanic Gardens yesterday. I was walking around and I was like, I'm going to journal about this so much. So today we're going to be talking about journaling. That's going to be our focus. And more specifically, why I think as a healthcare provider or someone who works in healthcare, why journaling I think is very important to how we process what we do and impact on our patient care. So that's going to be the focus of what we talk about today. Just curious, how many people here keep a journal or a diary? Okay, awesome. And how many of you guys write specifically about work? Like you will process things that happen in your diary? Cool. Hopefully, by the end of this talk, everyone will be journaling, so then we'll all have that. So let me show you this first slide. So this like 80s looking kitty cat journal for $1 at Walgreens was my very first journal. I got it when I was 10. And I was digging through my old things because I wanted to find something to show you guys that showed like, where did I start with journaling? And so I just had to show you this. This was the first page of my journal. So this is like, I don't know if you can all see it. It says like, do not open, completely top secret. I have a younger brother, he's 3 years younger than me, so I think this explains why I was so private about my journal. And then even better is I turn to the second page, and it's still the same thing. I'm still trying to make sure my brother doesn't try to get into that. So things are different now. This is my journal now. It's lettered, so it's a little nicer. And then this is kind of like the art journal that I do now. I do a lot of collage, scrapbooking, art journal, mixed media type stuff. So we'll talk a little bit about this and how you can get started, but this is kind of my style now. So here's what we're going to focus on today. So I want to talk about why I think journaling is important in healthcare and if you're a healthcare provider, why I think you should journal. We're going to go over a couple of a few historical examples, some old journals that I found online, and why I think looking at those are important. I'll talk about my own journaling journey and how I got into this, which is some of the pages that I do. We'll talk about Family Doc Diary and how I got started with that. We'll do a little activity to get us all journaling together. And then if we have time, I did make a little process video about how I do collage and art journaling. So if there's time, we can play that, but it's also going to be on YouTube, or it is on YouTube, so you can play it as well. So why journal? And why about my job? So these are the reasons that I think it's important to journal for a healthcare provider. I think first of all, it is, in our jobs as healthcare providers, there are a lot of different things that go on, a lot of different emotions that happen throughout the day. And sometimes there's not really a chance to stop and think about it and process what's going on, whether it's a good emotion, bad emotion, neutral. So I think first and foremost, it's a way to reflect on what's going on and what you're seeing in your daily life. It's also a way to document positive things that happen. In our residency, for example, right now we have a resiliency tool of the month, and right now we're encouraging people to create a little document that has all the positive things that patients say to you, write to you, messages, and trying to store that. So I think journaling could be a way to keep that and have it as a record of all the good things that are happening. For me, it's also a way to honor the patients that I see. There are some patients where you, as a family doc, you go through a lot with that patient, and you go through many different phases of life with somebody, through good times and bad, and sometimes I think it's a good way to honor the fact that they are, choosing me as their doctor. And I enjoy being able to process that in my journal. It can also allow you to form a connection with your colleagues, a chance to share what you are processing and what you're talking about. And if you feel comfortable sharing your journal, having one that we bring to like a Valence session or a group processing session, I think is really awesome to have. And then lastly, I just find journaling very, very fun. I like playing with all my supplies and the colors on the paper and giving something to look forward to, so I really enjoy it. So let's jump into some historical examples. So I pulled out 3 excerpts from some healthcare providers' journals. And I wanted us to just take a look at it quickly, just to kind of see what are some ways that other people have used their journals, and how can we apply those principles to our own journaling, and why is it important to journal as a healthcare provider. So here's the first one. This is from Amanda Aiken, who was a brand new nurse working at the Armory Memorial Hospital in Washington, D.C. in the 1860s. And then this webpage that I have has an example of her actual written diary. And so this is the excerpt that was pulled from the diary. So I'll give you a moment to just take a look at that and read through it. And so when I was reading this, my thought was, I can totally relate to that. I think we as healthcare providers do share a lot of similar emotions. And I think the fact that she took this time to reflect on what she was feeling, the fear of that day, that first day you're on the ward, that first day of the daycare or med student, or at a new job, I think it's really intimidating. And especially when you're taking care of very complicated patients. So I really like this excerpt because for me, it exemplified one of the hallmark reasons why I journal, which is taking time to reflect on my day. So here is the second example. So this is Esther Hill Fox. She was one of the first female physicians. She trained at New England Medical College in the 1950s. And so here is her excerpt. And I picked this one because I thought it was an example of exposing our own biases. So I'll give you a moment to read through this. So for me, when I was reading this, I think it's very common for us to write about our patient day. We'll be or our clinic day or our work day, and we'll talk about our relationship with our patient. Not all of those feelings are always good. sometimes we will look after our journals and we will say, wow, that was wrong of us today. So I think this example really serves as a reminder of how journaling can teach us as well. You know, a couple hundred years later reading this, we can clearly tell she has a racial bias reading through this. And I think when we journal, we can look back on our own past selves and reflect on what lessons we can take away from what we thought or believed in the past, and how can we use that to improve our behavior. So this last example is from Dr. Michihiko Hashiya, who was a director of a hospital that was located a mile away from where the bomb was dropped in Hiroshima. And I chose this one because I thought it was a great example of how sometimes as care providers, we also experience traumatic things, and we may need a way to document that and process that. So here's the excerpt that I pulled, and it's a little long, so here's what it there. So I picked this one because I think it shows two things. First of all, that we were talking about traumatic events, things that we go through. I mean, this was a large world historical event as well, but we may, as care providers, experience different types of traumatic events that may be more personally traumatic. And it would be still, I think, a good idea to write it down and process it and think about it so that it gives you an opportunity to look back later and think about what was going on, what was I feeling, what was I thinking. So those are just three examples that I pulled from other care providers' journals. And now I kind of want to move into how did I get started in my journaling journey. So I've been keeping a journal since, like I was showing you guys, since age 10. But it wasn't really until my third year of medical school that I really started to focus in particular on documenting what was happening during my med school years and my residency years. Third year, I think for those of you who know, is usually traditionally a clinical year. It can be very tough, that transition from being in these lectures to having long hours and seeing patients. Sometimes you're not really prepared for that new change in pace and that motion. And I found myself really having a lot to think about and mull over at the end of the day, but not really having a place to process it. You know, I could go home and dump it all on my partner, but I don't think he really appreciated that. So I mean, the journal was the right place to go. So that's when I started really specifically writing about what was going on. And then that opened up this whole realm of people who journal in not just in a written way, but in kind of mixed media, art collage type of way. And so, you know, the age of social media, YouTube, Instagram, all of these places really acted as inspiration. I actually made a lot of friends through the mixed media art as well. For me, it was just a time where I could not worry about what was going on. I could just put down my feelings on paper. It was really a form of expression. And then around match day, when I matched with family medicine, that was when I had the idea, you know, I love family medicine, and I love that we do whole spectrum care, and I thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could show somebody what I go through as a family medicine patient. And so that was when I approached Jay about starting Family Doc Diary. And so Family Doc Diary is basically a book with all of my journal entries from the entire year. where I processed specific topics using my mixed media art journal format. So I do have a few of the books here, so if they don't pass them around, you can use a lot of you can pass them around. So I also brought my journals here so that you can take a look at as well if you wanted to. But that's how this kind of all got started. So I'll just show you some examples here. So this one, I don't know if you can read it, it says, I'm thankful for my co-residents and for Bailing Group, I'm hopeful for the future. And so this was after a, I don't know if you guys have Bailing Group here, but it's like a group processing for doctors, with like picking on something that you guys have it here. So we had a particularly meaningful session with the Bailing Group, and I just left feeling so uplifted in a sense from my co-worker. And so I was just like, I want to put my colors on here and express that. This here is an entry I did from my second year. It says, joy, love, pain, sorrow, in all these things I'm growing. And this is a young woman that who's been a patient. She's HIV positive. She had immigrated here from Turkey about a year and a half ago amidst all that political turmoil. She basically came here and she was profoundly depressed. And so I was seeing her on a regular basis and touch base and just making sure she's doing okay. And I asked her a question, I said, you know, so I was trying to make like a care plan with her, and I was like, well, can you list some support systems for me? And so we can put it on your summary, we can take it home and look at it, and she was like, this is what she said to me. She was like, I sure love cancer and all these things. And so that really, that heavily did me. But, and I didn't quite know how to process it, but I just felt like I needed to document that that is how she's doing it. This is an entry from intern year, and it's just more of like a ode to hospital food. I'm sure all of you who work here, the cafeteria becomes a pretty integral part of your life at some point, and you find creative ways of making meals and getting by. So I think anyone who's worked in healthcare can probably relate to this. So sometimes I think there's not always only hard things or challenging things to document or process. Sometimes it's the everyday things that you think are just a part of your everyday life, but still are special in their own way. This is another example from second year. I started changing my style a little bit, so the watercolor art journaling type style that I used for intern year, I wanted to do something different for my second year, just because that was pretty time intensive. And so I bought a little photo printer, and I started to print out photos from our daily life, like on the inpatient ward. So I started incorporating photos along with the text. And then here's another example. So this one, I actually didn't really do all that much art stuff. It just had a lot of stickers. So I think you guys can tell I'm very drawn to color, and that's just how I tend to like my journals to look. But I'm showing you guys these examples because I want you to know that if you do decide to try something like journaling, be it art journaling or just writing things down, there are many, many, many different ways to do this. It doesn't have to look a certain way. It just needs to meet whatever it is that you need. And so if you're a writer, write. If you want to draw, draw. If you want to do whatever it is your form of expression, I highly encourage that you do it. I know that things that are busy and color saturated and cutesy, that's my style. So that's what I end up using. And then for my residency, we also started to try and incorporate some journaling and personal reflection into our own wellness curriculum. And so this is an example from one of our sessions, and this is one of my co-residents' notebooks. But there's an acronym called SPICES, spiritual, physical, intellectual connections, emotion, and satisfaction at heart. And so all of those are different elements of wellness. And so what we did for our wellness activity was we gave everyone these little notebooks, we gave everyone these cash sheets, everyone pasted it in. And people are using that. We use it for when we're processing, when we're doing other wellness sessions, but people will use it to jot down things that happen at work, or they'll use it to jot down things that they're looking forward to as a writer seminar or 30th. So I think that's the nice thing about journaling, that it's very flexible and it can be easily incorporated into many wellness. So knowing all of this, where do I start? So I think the thing that I hear a lot from people is like, I'm not artistic, I can't do this. But so like I was saying earlier, it's not about, like, these examples are just how I process and how I journal, but there's so many ways that people journal. So I would really encourage you to just find what works for you and go with it. Another tip that I have is to start small and to go with it. So by starting small, I mean, sometimes the blank page can be intimidating. And so you may be sitting there and you have all of these things that you're thinking about, you're not really sure what to put down. So one activity that is helpful is sometimes just to write down purely like what happened that day. If you're feeling so too much and you're having trouble putting it all down on paper, just start with like documenting what happened. And then once you build a consistent habit, then that may then expand into a space where you can talk more about, the processing of feelings that went along with it. And then the final thing is to make it sustainable. So whatever habit you pick, whatever you decide to do, see if you can integrate it into a part of your daily work practice. Or if not daily, maybe weekly, maybe monthly, but see if it's something that can be sustainable for you. Because I do think that this is part of us taking care of ourselves. And then also then, in turn, when we're taking care of ourselves, it equates to better patient care as well. So we'll do a little exercise here. I think everybody has a little notebook. If you don't have a notebook, you can raise your hand and I'll hand you one. And we also have some pens. Does everybody have a notebook? Okay, so a couple here. So I'll hand them out. Do you guys have a notebook? Here. And anyone else need a notebook? Okay. Okay. I think we may not. I think we might have just enough. Is there one more notebook? Oh. Well, a piece of paper will be just fine. So this is just a little activity to get the juices flowing. So in your notebook, think about the last week, okay? Maybe like the last 3 to 5 days, and just write like, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or something like that. And then next to each one, just write down really quickly what you did that day. Did you go to work? Did you go to dinner with friends? Did you stay busy? And sometimes this is kind of hard to remember, and so what I do is I might look through my texts or look at my camera roll or my email, something to jog my memory about what I did for days. Now, for those of you who are ready for the next step, if you haven't finished writing down half of that's totally fine. But for those of you who are ready for the next step, let me just take a look at this list and see, anything stand out to you? Was there anything in particular that happened? It doesn't have to be work related, but just something that was either special or notable, or you just have a thought associated with it. And I'd like you to just, circle that and then maybe expand on it on the next page. And just take some time to see if you can just document a little bit about something that stands out to you for whatever reason it is. And what we'll do is we'll do this for another couple of minutes or so, and then I'd like you guys to just turn to someone next to you, and then if you are comfortable, maybe share your week, share your thoughts about what went on, and then just kind of talk about how that activity went. Like, did it was helpful? Did it help you notice something that maybe you would have no otherwise noticed? Or was it something that maybe you had a passing time, you're like, oh, that was fun, but then you didn't get a chance to write it down until now. So maybe in a minute or two, go ahead and turn to somebody next to you and just chat about I think we're gonna bring it back. So it seems like a lot of people have things to write about. Anyone have any thoughts? Like maybe hearing from somebody who is already journaling. What did you guys think about this activity? Have you ever done it this way before, where you just kind of like purely write down what happened and then pull something in and see how it's there? Yeah. Cool. And then how about from somebody who doesn't usually journal? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. Do you think this is something you would be able to do? Did you find it worthwhile?
Kristen, hold your mic.
I struggle with like trying to remember what I did on a big day. Got it. Thank you. So I think this would be really beneficial in just helping me like maybe pay attention to my day a little bit more, so that when I am trying to reflect on a irregular basis, it'll be easier to recall what did I do on a like regular Thursday night, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah. I journal for, I'll journal about work things, but I also journal about just my like regular day-to-day life. And I do find that there's something special in the everyday, I think. And it's like really nice to write a little bit about just something that doesn't really seem like you would remember it in like 2 weeks or something, just a meal that you shared. But if you sometimes just put it down and talk about a good conversation that you had, even those things can be really meaningful. Right? Well, thank you so much for doing that. Really glad. So I did make a couple of videos. So these videos are just me talking through how I do an art layout. Because for those of you who are sitting here and thinking, oh, I might want to try something that is like mixed media art journaling, what kind of supplies do I use? What kind of, like, how much time does it take or something like that? I did make these videos for us to watch. So I think maybe, what's our time? We're recording until 50, okay. Maybe let's do like questions first, if anyone has questions, and then we can go back and play these. Does that sound good? Does anyone have questions for me? Yeah.
An awesome time. I actually am involved a lot with residency. My question for you is, I'm in residency. How do you feel like your residency could have, or perhaps should have supported you, or just educating, including this as part of your wellness curriculum, your well-being curriculum, or how it should play out in residency programs across the country?
Great question. So I definitely think that introducing the topic of creative expression as a form of processing what we do is super, super, super important. And I mean, the fact that here there's this arts and medicine lecture series is amazing. And I think if we could have an integration of creative expression and arts within residency curriculum, I think that would be just a goal that I would have for all of us. Now, specifically about journaling, I think the thing I like about journaling the most is it doesn't really require much material. It's a piece of paper and a pen. And it doesn't have to, it's just expression in a very raw form. And so in my residency, what we did was, so I'm one of the wellness students for this year, and so me and my other co-chief, we decided to incorporate a journaling activity as part of our kickoff. And so I do think the residency has been very supportive of using this, but we also recognize that not everybody, like, not having done a full talk on why journaling is important for healthcare providers, if I haven't done that talk for residency yet, I think it would be a little difficult to just like tell everybody, we're all going to journal now. But I think if we had the time to introduce the topic in this way, contextualizing it in terms of healthcare providers and patient care, I think it could definitely be very doable.
One of the things that really attracted me to and intrigued me with your work was how accessible it was and how creative. So I know I've got students in here, and I teach a lot of reflective writing, and I get a lot of, but there are other ways to reflect. And I think that this is very important in, in the way in which you presented it. Because I know that just sitting down and somebody saying, okay, reflect on that, it's not just daunting, your mind just sort of shuts down. And an opportunity to do things like draw and to add things and to really find other modes of expression that then lead you into this kind of transformational thinking is really important. So I appreciate what you've done with this because you've made it less, it's still a serious effort, but you've made it somehow, sort of less, I don't know, daunting and academic and a task.
Thank you.
And I think you're shaking.
Yeah. So I think, thank you so much for saying that. I definitely felt that intimidation too, like in classes where, you're asked to process some things. Of course, there's a little bit of like, I don't quite know where to start. And one of the things that I found, especially with collaging and scrapbooking mixed media, is that I'm somebody where if I feel like pent up energy about something, I need to do something. And so ripping up pieces of paper, having tape, putting on color, using paint, all of that is part of the process of me processing whatever it is that I'm feeling. And it is, it's kind of like, in kindergarten they do finger painting. It's that same like tactile, it is very, it's not intimidating. It's just, putting things on paper. So I agree with that. Yeah.
I've known some people who do the type of artistic journaling that you do, but also have another form where they make journaling to discover. They actually write things or create things for the purpose of destroying it. And I don't know whether that's something you've experienced or what your thoughts are on that as another technique for potentially releasing things rather than holding on to them.
I think that sounds fascinating. I am trying to think if I've applied that before. I do have some things that I've like written in and then I just said I just want to get rid of it, but it wasn't intentional. And I think that is a very interesting exercise. As an exercise in this, there's no permanence to this. If there is something that I'm feeling right now, it can and probably will change. And the idea of putting it down and knowing that it one day will go away is, I like that. I like that. Well, great. Thanks so much. You can watch the video. I do want to say, so I brought two of my journals here. So this one with this cover is the entries that went into the books that are floating around. And then this one here is just my scrapbook for like my daily life. So feel free to look through it. Hopefully it'll inspire you to do a little bit of journaling. So thank you. Yeah, we'll just play the video, and then if you guys need to go, that's fine.
Hi everyone. So thanks so much for having me come and talk about art journaling. I thought I would show you guys do a quick example for those of you who are interested in art journaling, particularly about what you do for work, patient encounters, reflections, things like that. I thought I would give you an example of how I usually do a spread from start to finish. And I thought this would be helpful, especially if you're thinking, oh, this does seem interesting, I would like to get into it, but I'm not sure what materials I need to buy, what things I need to have with me, what kind of setup. These are the things that people ask me a lot, like, do I need to have all this stuff? So I'll kind of share the things that I use most commonly, and we'll do a spread together. And you can kind of pick and choose and decide which elements you think you would use in machine learning. So currently, if you're familiar with my family doc diary book, this is the same size of journal I use, and I apologize, I'm recording this on my cell phone. I don't have like an actual camera set up, so it's like not very, I don't have a camera stand, so it's very easy. But anyway, this is the notebook that I use. And this year, previously, I would do a spread on both pages, but then when I ended up publishing it, you would have part of it erased just kind of in the spine. So I'm not doing that this year. What I'm doing is I'm doing text on one side and collage on the other side. So this is an example of a page for the start of my article year. So what I'm doing this year is I keep track of interesting thoughts, patient cases. I just jot it down in my regular planner, like the one where I keep my to-do lists and things. And then once I decide that I want something to become an entry, then I will put it on a sticky note and add it into here, so that when I do have time to process it in art journal, I can come back and refer to what it was that I wanted to do. So, as you can see this year, like I said, I'm doing text on one side, collage on another, so I'm going to just flip to this page, which is what I thought we worked on. So this, it says, after the delivery, we said to her, we'll get you all cleaned up and back to being a regular person now. And she replied, and what the patient had said, so she had just delivered her baby. You know, we were repairing her lap, we were the nurses were helping her get cleaned up and get ready for the postpartum. And so we said this to her, and she was just so enamored with her baby. She was like, I'm not a regular person anymore, I'm a mommy. And I just feel like that was like, I really love that, because we see it as such an everyday thing. Okay, you deliver, so perineum, and you don't really, after a while, you forget that this is so meaningful for the patient and their family. And so I just, when she said that, I was like, it brought tears to my eyes. So I just wanted to remember that moment. So when I'm deciding what to do for an art collage spread, I'll think about the feelings that I want to convey, and also the supplies that I have and what I could do, what type of spread I could do with the materials that I have. So when I was reading this and thinking back on that moment, I really wanted to do something that was green, maybe plant related, just to signify growth and new things and this idea of transition in somebody's life. So what I pulled out was some of my more things that I usually use in an art journal spread. So I have just random bits of collage, like paper items, collage tidbits. Honestly, you can buy collage paper in sets at your local craft store, or a lot of times you just end up collecting things, either from catalogs, like, oh, this is a really pretty background, you can rip it out of magazines, things like that, cards that people
So, I know that, I think this ends at 12:50, so I'm just gonna stop that video there. It's long, it's like 15 minutes, so that is to it. But it is all online on YouTube, and so I will make sure the title will say like arts in medicine process video, so if you wanted to keep watching it and learn some materials, it'll be on there. And then I will stick around for a little bit if anyone wants to talk or ask questions, if any med students are around and want to talk. The books that are floating around, we were hoping the med students, if you're a med student, please take one. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, Phyllis. Thank you, Dr. Ying. This has been so wonderful. And we do have books for med students if you want to grab one before you leave. And if you have a few minutes and you want to spend some time with Dr. Ying, I don't know where Dr. Major took off, but you know, we've got a publication project coming out of this from the fourth year medical students last year. So we'll be publishing another book. And thank you so much for sharing your time with us.
Hey everyone. So thanks so much for having me come and talk about art journaling. I thought I would show you guys, do a quick example for those of you who are interested in art journaling, particularly about what you do for work, patient encounters, reflections, things like that. I thought I would give you an example of how I usually do a spread from start to finish. And I thought this would be helpful, especially if you're thinking, oh, this does seem interesting. I would like to get into it, but I'm not sure what materials I need to buy, what things I need to have with me, what kind of setup. These are the things that people ask me a lot, like, do I need to have all this stuff? So I'll kind of share the things that I use most commonly, and we'll do a spread together. And, you know, you can kind of pick and choose and decide which elements you think you would use and which you wouldn't. So currently, if you're familiar with my Family Doc Diary book, this is the same size of journal I use, and I apologize, I'm recording this on my cell phone. I don't have like an actual camera set up, so it's like not very, I don't have a camera stand, so it's very zoomed in. But anyway, this is the notebook that I use. And this year, previously I would do a spread on both pages, but then when I ended up publishing it, it would kind of, you would have part of the image just kind of in the spine. So I'm not doing that this year. What I'm doing is I'm doing text on one side and collage on the other side. So this is an example of a page for the start of my R3 year. So what I'm doing this year is I keep track of interesting thoughts, patient cases, and I just jot it down in my regular planner, like the one where I keep my to-do lists and things. And then once I decide that I want something to become an entry, then I will put it on a sticky note and add it into here so that when I do have time to process it in art journal, I can come back and refer to what it was that I wanted to do. So as you can see this year, like I said, I'm doing text on one side, collage on another, so I'm going to just flip to this page, which is what I thought we would work on. So this, it says, after the delivery, we said to her, we'll get you all cleaned up and back to being a regular person now. And she replied, and what the patient had said, so she had just delivered her baby. You know, we were repairing her lac, we were the nurses were helping her get cleaned up and get ready for the postpartum. And so we said this to her, and she was just so enamored with her baby. She was like, I'm not a regular person anymore. I'm a mommy. And I just really, that was like, I really loved that because we see it as such an everyday thing. Okay, you deliver, sew up the perineum, and you don't really, after a while you forget that this is so meaningful for the patient and their family. And so I just, when she said that, I was like, kind of, it brought tears to my eyes. So I just wanted to remember that moment. So I kind of, when I'm deciding what to do for an art collage spread, I'll think about the feelings that I want to convey, and also the supplies that I have and what I could do, what type of spread I could do with the materials that I have. So when I was reading this and thinking back on that moment, I really wanted to do something that was green, maybe plant related, just to signify growth and new things and this idea of transition in somebody's life. So what I pulled out was some of my more things that I usually use in an art journal spread. So I have just random bits of collage, like paper items, collage tidbits. Honestly, you can buy collage paper in sets at your local craft store, or a lot of times you just end up collecting things, either from catalogs and you're like, oh, this was a really pretty background. You can rip it out, magazines, things like that, cards that people send you. You can turn those all into collage material. So here's a couple things that I have, so I'm using that. I do use washi tape a lot. So washi tape, I think it came from Japan and it means paper tape. But nowadays it comes in all of these different, you can get a ton of different designs. And again, your local craft store like Michael's or Joann Fabrics or any, like if you have specialty stores, they will probably carry this. And they'll come in a variety of different designs. And they're really handy to have around, just like a couple of rolls, because they're already adhesive and they have a design, so they can just really spruce up any art collage project you're doing. So I just have a couple of plant themed rolls. This is glue tape. You can just use this is glue tape, which is basically an adhesive that allows you to put on the back of collage paper and stick it into your journal. You could use a glue stick. I just prefer this. And then I also have stamps. So I have a few different rubber stamps. I probably won't use all of these now, but rubber stamps, a couple colors. And so you can notice I think one thing that I enjoy a lot, and it may not be your style, but one thing that I enjoy a lot is having textures and layers in my, whenever I do a spread, because I think it adds a little bit of complexity to whatever it is that I'm working on, and just like an extra way for me to express what it is that I want to express. So paper, tape, stamp, all of these are going to be different layers. I also have a pen, and then this is something I recently got. It's a water brush pen. It's basically just like watercolor brush, but it already comes pre-filled with its ink, and it's this like very light green. So you know, it again adds that different like watercolor element, but you can just use a regular watercolor brush too. So let's see. So here's the journal again. I do have, to keep your page flat, you can use different things. You can put clips on both sides or just paperweights in the corners. I found this, it's a music book holder, like for people who are playing pianos, like at my local dollar store. So I find that this really keeps it, keeps the page nice and flat. So I do first try and envision what it is that I'm doing. And so like I said, I want elements of green. I will rip off these edges here just because I like a little bit more. I think I'm feeling like wanting to do a little bit of raw edging here just because I think it will add, again, that element of texture. And maybe this side as well. Create just a slight border there. And I'm envisioning putting the patient's reply on this card here. And how I'm going to do that, I don't know yet. If I'm going to write it on there or what. Oops. Okay, so now I'm just contemplating my layers. So this is, I'm just trying to think, do I want stamping in the background right now? One thing I did want to do is I thought it would be, I have this like rose tape here, and I wanted to maybe represent the mom in terms of a flower. This is actually just sticker paper. You can just buy this at your local, like, office store. Any place where they sell labels, they will sell this type of paper. And you can really turn anything you want into a sticker, basically. So I think maybe I will put her words over here. So then I'm just going to commit to taping this down here. But I will admit sometimes I feel like, especially when I'm art journaling, even though I have a plan for a spread, I feel a little scared to actually commit and put something down on the paper. But I think that's part of the art journaling process. You just go with what you feel, because whatever it is, it will just reflect your creativity in that moment. So it doesn't need to be too intentional, too planned out. So we'll do that. And then I think I'll go ahead and add a couple of watercolor elements here. I'm just gonna do stripes. Oops. Well, a lot. A big drop just came out. I think I'm just gonna blend that all together, actually. I don't know how much I liked the stripe effect. I think maybe what I'll do now is just create this kind of hazy thing. So that's the other thing, when I show people art journals or I talk about art journaling, a lot of people like I mentioned earlier, feel a little bit hesitant because they feel like they don't have an art background or anything. And I will say I also do not have any art background. I don't know how to do oil painting or sketching or ceramics or anything. I just find this fun, kind of like a release, and I tell myself I just need to put something on here as a reminder of how I was feeling or what I was processing. And I think that in and of itself creates a work that you can be proud of. So I like that. Now I will add some stamp elements here. So we'll use this black ink. So I like how now it's kind of like there's 3 layers. There's the watercolor, the paper, and the stamp. That variation I really like a lot. Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure yet. You know, I had brought out these tapes, but I'm not completely sure that I want to use it. Okay, so sorry this video ended up being in 2 parts. I think I tried to pause it, but I think I ended up stopping it. But, so I think what I'll do now is add some text, and then we can think about more layers in just a moment. So I just added a little bit of text there. And then I think, let's see. I'm just going to add a couple of other elements here to bring a little bit of, to kind of bring some of this together. Let's see. I put in a couple of horizontal pieces of tape here, trying to bring these 2 portions together. And then with this, I have this tape here that has just a few plant elements. And I'll just add in a couple here and there. I think I want to make this a little bit more bold, actually, just because this one is pretty bold. So I'm just gonna thicken this part just a little bit. Yeah, so I'm pretty satisfied with this. So here's the full spread. I like that the focal point is where she said, "I'm a mommy now." That was one of the things that I remember the most. And so I like the green here. I think it signifies that transition like I was talking about. So anyway, yeah, that's how I do a spread. And oh, I hope this was horizontal. Okay. Yeah, please feel free to ask me any questions about the materials I used and what I think would be a good starter. Again, a lot of these things you could have or you might not have. You could get it at your local craft store. You may or may not need it. You can do lots of cool things with watercolor alone. You don't need all of these elements. This just happens to be what I like to do. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that. Thank you so much.